We may have to repeat this. Hi everyone. Sorry, my fault. We are definitely here. And we're just going to get straight into it. Unfortunately, Donya is having audio issues, and it has been a while since I have actually had to run and produce the show. So sorry that we are starting a little bit late. Um, I have the pleasure of introducing Aubrey Warrick, who is also known as Manny. And my apologies, Manny, because while we were chatting, we were actually off air, so we're going to have to do a little bit of backtracking. Um, As always, everyone who's watching, thank you for tuning into Genealogy Adventures. As you know, I'm Brian Sheffy. And as always, thank you for spending the hour with us, no matter how you're tuning in. And today we're going to be talking about genealogy reports that clients receive from professional genealogists, especially reports that we prepare for clients who are new to genealogy. And hopefully, coming out of this, everyone will have a better sense of good practice and ways that we can work to make and produce reports that are easily understandable, followable, and digestible for our clients. So Aubrey actually is a perfect guest for this because he is grappling with a very detailed, very complicated, and complex report that he received from one of the big commercial genealogy research companies. And as we were chatting off the show, Aubrey was detailing about how he didn't have the opportunity to know his grandmothers because they passed while he was very young, but he did have a chance to know his grandfathers. And coming from a kind of family that really didn't talk about the past, and as we were kind of joking, while I thought we were actually on air, is, as we tend to become older in life, we just become a lot more curious about who we are and who we come from. I think that's a pretty good synopsis of what we chatted about, Aubrey, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So you were talking about you had taken a stab at actually building your own tree and coming across documents that weren't quite pairing up with what you had been told or what you thought you knew about your family. And that is the point at which we went live. And at what point did you feel that you needed to have a professional actually take over from the research that you've done?
Uh, I really don't know. It just got real complicated. Um, so I just said, I had to, I called them up and asked them about, hiring someone to do the research for me. Um, and that's how that came about.
And I've got to ask, as a professional, I've been blessed to, continually have new clients approach me, and actually, probably now, about 80% of my clients are referrals from from previous clients. How daunting was that to actually? It takes a lot of trust. So, how daunting was that for you to trust that someone who didn't know anything about you or your family could be able to do the research that you needed them to do?
Hi.
Hello, cousin. So lovely to hear your voice.
Hey, everybody. This thing was just like, nope, you're not playing today. I'm so
Oh,
sorry, guys.
that's fine. That's fine. We had a little snafu. I thought we were live, but we weren't live, but we're live now.
Oh,
Thank goodness for audience comments. Um, so, how daunting was it for you, Aubrey, to actually trust the research to someone else?
I really just put the research, my trust into them. Just like when you take your car to the car dealership, you trust, if anything goes wrong with your car after you leave there, you're going to take it right back up there to them. You trust them to fix your car or whatever
Yes.
the problem is. So, I trust whoever's going to do the research was going to give me something that was accurate. Right.
That is a very good analogy, and I couldn't have honestly thought of a better one. It is like taking your beloved car that you know to a trusted professional. So you had the report, and then you were looking at your DNA matches, and from what I understand, Donya can jump in as well. From what I understand, your DNA matches were really confusing you because there were surnames that you just weren't expecting.
Yes, there's quite a bit of them.
And I believe one of those names was Tolbert.
Yes.
Mhm. And funnily enough, as you were having a conversation with Donya about that, because you didn't understand why these Tolberts were there. One of our other cousins had posted on a Facebook group, a family Facebook group for Edgefield County, going, "Oh yeah, he's a Tolbert." I mean, no one had any doubts that you were a Tolbert. It was just a matter of trying to figure out how. Um, and Donnie, do you want to kind of outline what that conversation was about?
So how Manny and I met was through one of our mutual cousins, Joanne, and basically she got him in touch with both me and Yolanda because Yolanda deals with his what he was told as his great grandmother's side of the family, and I am somewhat connected to his what he was told his great grandfather's side of the family. So she was like, you know what? These are the two people that you really need to talk to. And that's how he got involved with us. And he was given this, according to, are we naming the company?
No. Well, I mean,
Okay.
if Manny wants to name them, he can name
It
them.
doesn't matter to me.
No, you would have to name them. We not coming out with the names.
Okay.
So he was given the name of his great grandparents because if I'm not mistaken, you didn't even know the names of your great grandparents. They gave them to you. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So he was given the names of his great grandparents, which were Lula Gilchrist Jennings and Joseph Jennings. Those were the people that he were told that were his great grandparents. And I know Joe is watching, so she's like, well, ain't that his great grandparents? Wait till you hear this story, Joe. So that's why she gave him. She was like, these are the two people that you really need to talk to because they got that whole information on lock. And let me tell y'all something. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna say when I'm wrong. I'm gonna accept when I'm wrong, and I'm gonna say when I'm wrong. And I was wrong. I was wrong. And I know my Edgefield people, but I was wrong. So, I was talking to him about it, and Manny was steadfast. Hey, my granddaddy is from Virginia. And I said, okay. And, let's look through this. Let's go through this and everything. Well, everything that I was seeing, his granddaddy wasn't from Virginia. I don't care. I was like, yeah, nah, your granddaddy not from Virginia from what I'm seeing. And this is not leaning in that direction. I can understand what you're saying, and seasoned African American researchers know that because of the turmoils, and especially in Edgefield, South Carolina, because of the turmoils that our families go through, the things that they have seen, sometimes they don't even want to state where their family, where they actually came from. They're like, you know what, I'm gonna change my whole life around. I'm gonna move. And I'm Brian's laughing because he knows that they not gonna do it. They like, you know what? That's not the move for me. This is not the place I need to be. And yeah, I'm just gonna switch my world. I'm gonna switch my whole world. And that's what they did. They make those kind of changes. And Manny was like, no, my granddaddy is from Virginia. And he stayed with that and he stuck with that. And I don't care what I showed him. He was like, no, I don't see that. You can't prove that to me. And I'm like, but Manny, this lady never moved. These people never left. Never left. They never left. So then I was like, well, I tell you what, you need to talk to Yolanda. She can tell you a lot about Lula. She can give you a lot of this information about Lula Gilchrist. She can show you the moves that she made, the directions that she went. She can give you all of that information. And so that's what he did. And he was still steadfast. Lula, I don't care. Lula ended up in Virginia in 1919. When I tell y'all, I showed him a birth record of one of his grandfather's brothers, and I'm doing that in air quotes, so y'all know I'm about to give y'all a whole nother story. Doing it in air quotes. Gave him a birth certificate of one of his brothers that was born in 1916, and he still was like, I don't care.
Yeah, nope. But that person, the 1916 person, was born in Edgefield,
and that person was born in Edgefield. He was still like, I don't care. My grandfather was born in Virginia. He was like, this lady. I even showed him. Y'all know the 1940 census. That 1940 census will tell you where a person lived 5 years prior. She was still in South Carolina. This lady had a consistent show of her consistently living in South Carolina. He was like, nope, I don't care. My grandfather was born in Virginia. So I got my most probably, y'all know I love Brian with everything in me. But there is something about that lady that I always say every now and then, named Loretta Bellamy, that I say I'm an unfriend every now and then. Y'all know her. And I always tell her I'm an unfriender, but I really don't unfriend her on my Facebook page. I finally got in touch with Loretta Bellamy. And I said, Loretta, this man is steadfast on saying that his grandmother is from Virginia. I haven't found anything. Yolanda hasn't found anything. All of his DNA is pointing him to these Talberts. Yolanda is saying that these Talbert, that his father, that Lula Gilchrist done stepped out on Joe Jennings, and Joe Jennings is not his father, and that Joe Jennings is actually his stepfather, and that his father is Jasper Talbert because he is too closely related to these Talberts. So closely related that Joanne's grandmother is literally the second person on his DNA. We talking first cousin once removed type stuff, y'all. Second cousin, over 500 CMs matching this man. We not playing, y'all, like all of that. So I'm talking things through with Loretta. Now, mind you, I'm going off of what we've gotten from this DNA report and everything like that, and what we've gotten from their particular report, this company's report, and everything. Not my research. Not my research at all. Yes, Josie, Jasper. No, it's not Jasper. But anyway, so I'm sitting here and I'm going through this whole research and everything with her, and I'm talking it through, and I told her what he said and everything, and she just came out her mouth and she was like, well, maybe Lula's not his mother. And I just dropped my head and I was like, maybe Lula's not his mother. And my wonderful Loretta, she said, okay. And I said, all right, well, let's look at that. We've been following this whole other company's research. Let's do our own. I said, when I come back, because I had to go somewhere. I said, when I come back, let's go and let's work on that. So she said, okay. Yeah, I left out to go do something. And I promise y'all, it was not 10 minutes. I got on the phone with Aubrey real quick. I said, Aubrey, I got Loretta on the job. We're going to go. When I said I had to step out for a minute, but when I come back, me and Loretta are going to go. We're going to look at this and we're going to see what's going on. And he said, okay. I said, so we're going to call you back. He said, okay. Right after I hung up the phone from him, maybe 5 minutes later, Loretta called me back and she said, I should be paid for what I do. I said, Loretta, you are paid for what you do. And she was like, you're right. Okay. I said, what have you done? Lula is not his mother. Okay, Loretta. So I'm driving. Who's his mother, Loretta? Eliza Tolbert, Nero Talbert's mother, Nero Talbert's daughter. Oh my God. Okay.
I just want to stop right there because everyone, Aubrey, who had taken a look at your DNA consistently to a person said that you were a descendant of Nero Talbert.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just for the benefit of the audience, we are going to chop and change between calling them Tolberts and Talberts because it's the same family. They just different branches pronounced it and spelt it in different ways. And Aubrey, that's going to be a little tip for you. When you dive back into your DNA, look for matches under both of those spellings, Talbert and Tolbert. But carry
Yeah,
on, Donnie.
it is the same family.
It's the same family.
Yeah, y'all can get mad at us all you want to, but y'all the same people. You know you the same people. Suck it up. But y'all the same people. The Talberts, Talbert, and Tolberts, Tolbert. They are the same people. It's always like that. I'm gonna show y'all this family.
So it's Eliza Tolbert.
It is Eliza Tolbert.
Mm-hmm.
And his father's name was Willie Jennings. Now, who is Willie Jennings? Willie Jennings is the son. And look, there's Joe right there. She said, that's what I said. He is a descendant of Nero and Margaret Talbert. And he is because Eliza Tolbert Talbert is a daughter of Nero and Margaret. And Willie Jennings is Joe Jennings' brother. And that's why that was why William Henry Jennings, which is Manny's grandfather, was living with Joseph Jennings and Lula Gilchrist because they were taking care of Joseph Jennings' nephew. And that's how he got there.
Yeah.
So,
and again, I guess this is where having a specialist knowledge of a community of people in a specific place really benefits us because we know how tricky not even just Edgefield, but the whole old 96 region of South Carolina is. And we would have automatically looked for Talberts and Tolberts. We would have just done that straight off Jump Street because we knew it would be the same with the Childs, Childs, and the Childs, Chiles family. We ever had a client that had a doubt about how they connected to that family, we would automatically just check for both of those names. However, the researcher for the commercial company wouldn't have had that knowledge. So they just stuck with that one spelling of that one surname. So I'll be bringing you into the conversation again. I wanted to ask you, because it's very complex and it's a very long report, not going to really touch on your dad's side of it, the North Carolina story, kind of sticking with the South Carolina. What do you think the report did well, or what were the parts that you easily understood, and what parts kind of confused you?
To be honest with you, everything confused me. You know, I took everything as it is. You know, when they sent it to me, because they did tell me that they were sending some possibilities on who could be, you know, and who could not be. Well, I did not need to see who could not be's. You know, I need know the meat and potatoes. That's what I paid you guys for.
I'm going to say a little defensively. Sometimes we professionals will add that information in, especially in case the client kind of goes back to take a look at the records and comes across an individual with the same or similar name who's born pretty close to to our ancestors living in the same place. So I even do that in my report. I don't spend very long on it, and I certainly wouldn't write about it in the big summary part of it. But in the research log, I would show a client, um, like for instance, the difference between a William Tolbert and a Willie Tolbert and a Wiley Tolbert, who may have all had the same middle initial for argument's sake, let's say C for Charlie, to explain why I would have ruled out two as being the client's ancestor and was presenting the third, saying this is your ancestor. But I can understand how that could be really confusing. They did
Okay.
spend a lot of time on people who weren't your ancestors. I think that part could have maybe been summarized more succinctly. But that's my opinion.
I can't. I'm gonna say that I can't. I think
Well,
that, and I'm gonna try to be as nice with this as possible. I think that the documents clearly stated that his name was WC or Willie Calvin, or it never called William.
oh, you're slightly jumping
Oh, I
ahead.
thought that's what y'all were saying.
No. I was just saying that if we're coming across, for instance, I don't know, Mandy Brunson. How many Mandy Brunsons were there living, on the 1870 census alone? For me, I would probably cover all of them, but very succinctly, and then spend the time explaining why one Mandy Brunson in particular would be the client's ancestor. You're talking about, and I agree with you, there was a Tolbert household with a William and a Wiley. And in the report, they said there was two Williams, when clearly Wiley never ever went by the name William. So.
Oh.
Mhm.
Okay, there go Loretta Bellamy. She say hi.
But you know what I mean? If we're like when I had that problem with figuring out which of two Emily Petersons, both living in Blocker Township, Edgefield, separated by about 18 months, was actually my ancestor. If I was doing that for a client, I would need to explain how I got to the correct Emily Peterson and was able to discount the other one. But I get your point. I get your point. Wiley never went by the name William, and they should have never referred to him as William. Because
you're absolutely right. And Angie, girl, son, let me tell you something about me. I ain't never scared to stand my ground, babe. So I just have to do it in a proper way. That's the thing. I'm never scared to stand my ground. There is a section in his and I'm sorry, I actually did skip us forward because I thought we were at a certain point. But since I have skipped us forward, I'm just gonna say that there is an area in there where I know, Loretta, there is an area in the report where at moments Willie Calvin and William Henry, his grandfather, had a quote unquote stepbrother named Willie Calvin. And Willie Calvin is consistently known as either WC or Willie Calvin. He has never gone by the name William. But the company that did his workup consistently called Willie Calvin as William.
Which would
My
be confusing.
issue with that, huh?
Which would be confusing.
Which is number one, confusing, and number two, just wrong, because you are consistently changing this man's name and it is not his name. And I don't appreciate it. I didn't like it. I got very upset behind it because there is not one document, not even his birth record that lists him as William. So I was very upset behind it. And both Loretta and Brian in different moments had to calm me. And so that's why Brian is saying what he's saying, and Loretta is telling me of my tone, and Manny is sitting there with this really big grin on his face because I love it. So I'm trying to, just like really say this in the best way. I was not appreciative on how they were doing it and the change that they kept doing, because I just found it wrong. I found it very wrong, and how that was done, how that was being done.
And I was feeling the same way about that missed birth certificate, because the one that Loretta found in Norfolk and Virginia, because apart from the middle initial, the date, because he gave a specific date of birth on that draft card. Manny's grandfather gave a specific birth date. It wasn't just a birth year. He gave the date and he gave the place, and Loretta found it. And this very large commercial research service did not. And that one record cleared everything up.
Right. We do not know the nationality of the genealogist. We don't know the nationality.
She's Caucasian.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
well, I didn't know. But I just didn't appreciate changing his name like that. And what Brian just said. To let you guys know how Miss Bellamy found his grandfather's birth certificate in Virginia with the correct parents in like 10 minutes. All she did, and this is letting everybody know how to do this. When you have to find somebody in Virginia, for example, because this is what she did. She just took the man's birth date, did not take anybody's name, did not put his name in or anything. Just put his birth date in and hit search. That was it. That was it. And everything came to pass. Less than 5 minutes. Why didn't they do that?
Because really that was a lost opportunity, because the story was revealed that your grandfather wasn't raised by his biological parents. And the amount of research that went into people that you weren't related to could have been spent in trying to at least answer that question about why your grandfather was actually raised by, correct me if I'm wrong, his aunt and uncle.
Aunt and uncle.
Yes. Aunt and uncle. Got it.
Aunt and uncle.
Because there's a story there. There was a reason for that. And again, in terms of our research, I probably don't see that as much on my dad's side, but my mom's side in South Carolina in Edgefield, that I wouldn't say it was commonplace, but it wasn't unusual either. In other words, Loretta, Don, anyone who researches in Edgefield in any kind of serious capacity will come across it more than once. We've come across it numerous times.
All the time. So Tanya asked a great question. She says, do you think that Caucasian genealogists are less careful with African-American clients? I'm going to say no. I don't think that they're less careful. I think that the knowledge is not as known, and it's not purposely done. I think that they for me, I think that what I call traditional genealogy compared to African-American genealogy is two different. I find it to be two different things. So the way that we go about doing our research, you can't do it the same way. So when Caucasian genealogists do research, they do it the same way, and you're not going to find, sometimes the way they do their research, it's not going to pop up the same way for
I'm
us.
going to say it also depends on, I think African Americans perhaps need to be more confident asking white Caucasian genealogists questions about how they do African American research. Because I'm going to say, I don't know how usual this is. I have two incredibly talented Caucasian genealogists on my staff in the museum in Charleston. They know slavery era, how to do slavery era research for African Americans, and then, aware of how to, in-depth knowledge of doing it after from 1870s onwards. I think maybe we just need to become more confident about asking, really asking those in-depth questions. What is your experience? What is your success rate?
Right. Exactly. Well, we have one on our staff for genealogy adventures as well. Sharon is awesome. Sharon knows, and then not only that, we know Caucasian researchers that know how to do African American, but you have to ask that question if they know how to do it. Not to mention the fact you got to have researching companies that are open to actually hiring African American researchers too. And then just to dig in deeper, you got to have some of these companies, these NGS type companies that are open to doing those, having those tests that they give to certify, to start actually certifying on African American genealogical research. Because at this point, I don't see them doing that. I don't see them using our type of research as a part of their testing. Did I say something wrong, Brian?
No, I thought that was great. So Aubrey, I want to ask you the question, knowing what you know now, and I guess having found crucial documents like your grandfather's birth certificate, again, I guess what information did you find really useful in the report? And I suppose what information didn't you find as useful?
Now that since Loretta has found the birth certificate, and it's got my great-grandparents' name on there, that part, that clears up a lot. As far as the report that I got from the company, to me, all that was, it's not the truth. Yes, he was raised by Joseph and Lula, but they're not his parents, and they have it listed as but they're not his parents. So I got to thank Loretta for that part right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tanya Foreman actually,
yeah,
she raised a great question, and I'm gonna couch it slightly differently. I don't know if you've given the company the birth certificate, but would you be willing to ask them to redo the research based on the findings of that document?
Yes, I will be.
Okay. Well, that Donya will be there on the phone call with you if you
I know.
Because Tanya does raise a good point. There is a lot of speculative information in your report that could have been avoided had they just found that one document.
I like what Karen said, or reimburse what you paid. Because see, that's what Donya is in for right there. I'm for the reimbursement of your money. But I've been told you that.
Yeah.
I'm for the reimbursement, because technically all of the information, or at least half of it, because you got two things done. Let's be honest. You did your dad's side and your mom's side, but your mom's side, everything on it is wrong. Everything. At this point, simply because of what they had. Everything on your mom's side, at least half of it. Yeah. Loretta said the same thing. Reimbursement for me. I mean, at least half of it. So you need to, before you get me on the phone, you need to tell me what you want me to say. Because I'm all for the money. I'm all for getting my money back. Because they wouldn't know, because it was all wrong. It was all wrong.
And just as an aside, I can't remember if Nero Tauber is the end of that line on our tree. Have we ever gotten past Nero?
For Nero? Well,
Mm-hmm.
my tree, we have his mother.
Okay.
We have his mother, and I think Yolanda goes back to a possible slave owner for that line.
So even within your extended family, Manny, you've got at least another generation that's proven. And Yolanda's pretty good at identifying the potential enslavers. So
yes, she is.
With the possibility of being able to extend that back even further.
Yes, she is.
But I would definitely have a conversation with the company that produced that information.
Yes, I will.
Because again, there was some information in there. I guess contextually, there was some that was I would call it interesting. Donya, you can probably talk about it better than I can. Apart from the speculative stuff, there was still extraneous stuff in there.
Like what? What you got to
Well,
remember?
again, I guess when I'm writing client reports, I'm almost like that TV show Dragnet. It's just the facts and nothing but the facts. If I don't know, or if I can't find something, rather than go into elaborate explanations about what could be or possibilities, I actually put that in recommendations. We have a recommendations section. So rather than spending time and clients' money getting into all that stuff, recommendation, we'll look at this, we'll look almost like a future research strategy. We'll look at this, and this, and this, rather than spend time doing that in a report.
Right. So you're talking about like when they said like when they said Jennings is not you have no Jennings in your line whatsoever, but you're related to Tandy Jennings.
Yes.
But you're not related to you're only related to Tandy Jennings because Tandy Jennings family married into the Talbot family. But you're related to the Jennings because Wallace is who was one of the older children of Joseph Jennings. So yeah, you're related to the Jennings.
But you're not.
But you're not related, but you don't have any Jennings in your line whatsoever. But you're not related to the Jennings. But you are related to the Jennings. But
and again, something for all of us to kind of take on board, especially professionals who write these reports. So Manny, based on what you know about your Tolbert side, your grandfather's side of the family, what do you feel about the research that was done on your father's side of the family?
How do you trust it?
Do you trust it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust my dad's side of the family. I actually have a great aunt. She's 91. I just spoke to her the other day, and matter of fact, that was my first time ever speaking to her. Was the other day, and we talked and we talked. I asked her, did she know her parents? But she said that they were gone, before she came around. But everything that I knew, she kind of like, she verified. So it was all good.
Good. So I mean, at least half of your report is valid and useful. So that that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thinking about it, it's unfortunate that you didn't know that this was going to go to Edgefield for starters.
No, I did not know where I knew my grandfather had some ties in South Carolina. I didn't know where, because I knew my mother's side. Like I said, my mother's side is from Edgefield. And so that's why I'm thinking that my, grandfather's family was, but it's Edgefield.
Yeah. Because I'm going to say Edgefield is one of those places that requires a specialist. because it is complicated.
Yeah, I see that now.
I mean, all of the names that we've just been dropping, me, Donya, Loretta, Sharon, Yolanda, there's too many people to name. We've been doing research on Edgefield for decades. And Donya's favorite saying is Edgefield is a monster. And it is. And there's just some places where you research that's like that.
And as
I'm
many
not
times
going to say,
I go by there, I never stopped, and I never knew that's where he was from.
and I'm not going to say that Edgefield is the only one like that, but I've only come across literally a handful of other places that are as complicated and as complex as that place. And I said, unfortunately, because you were at this, you didn't know. You didn't know. You didn't know that's where the research was going to go, or that it would be a really complicated place to research. To be able to ask anyone who's going to do that research for you how familiar they were or how knowledgeable they were about the place where your ancestors were living.
Right.
Vicky Van Cook said, coincidentally, I just read a post on the Facebook North Carolina page where someone was asking about hiring a genealogist through a large DNA company. There were some stating they had spent $1,500 to $2,500 and the client was not satisfied with the service at all. That's crazy.
Well, listen, I know of African Americans. I think I know the company she's talking about. I'm not talking about that one, but one that doesn't provide DNA services. I know African American clients who have stumped up between $10,000 to $20,000 on research.
Wow.
Would
you be willing to share how much you paid, or that's up to you?
Yeah, I don't mind. Tanya, I spent $1,000. That was just on this side, and then I spent another $1,000 on my other grandfather.
Jesus Christ! So you wait a minute. You didn't. What? I thought it was $1,000 for both of them together.
No, it was $1,000 for each.
Oh, we getting that back? No, sir. No, sir. We getting that back. I just made the decision for you. Can no, sir. No, sir. We getting that back.
Taraka, I paid by the hours, but it took actually weeks for me to get my report back. I called their representative, because it was taking so long for me to get an answer or anything back. And then I guess I was getting on his nerves by calling them, and then they just sent me this report.
Karen Ames, send me a private message. I won't be doing the research for you, but again, got a very talented team of researchers right here in Charleston, South Carolina, who are familiar with not only, basically all the counties on the Eastern Shore. So from Gullah Geechee, Heartland, all the way to Williamsburg and Orangeburg and counties along there. So send me a private message and I'll tell you how to get in touch with me. And trust me, it's no $1,000.
Well, wow, that's crazy.
Nancy, I can't. Denmark. Someone mentioned Denmark. I don't know who made that comment. Denmark can be quite challenging. Parts of South Carolina are only because they were burnt during the Civil War, so the records just don't exist. It's not necessarily that the research itself would be difficult. The records just don't exist. I can't think of it. You have to ask that question. I can't think of a name of a county off the top of my head, but there are some very rural Georgia counties that are a nightmare. Again, very similar kind of dynamic to Edgefield between interrelatedness, interconnectedness, common family names, people being partially documented, poorly documented, name changes, multiple marriages. Yeah, there's some rough Georgia counties out there.
And remember, guys, Genealogy Adventures, we have a service, and we do all you have to do is just send us an email and we will send out the information. We'll give you a call. We'll talk about your research service and what we can do. If we can't do it, we'll let you know. We're a very honest group of people. We will definitely, put out to you what we can do, what we can't do, where we, which direction we will go, and we will definitely guide you in a direction. And also, we even do things like consultations. We will help you go in a direction you want to go if that's what you think you want to do, especially if you are someone who has been doing your research on your own. We're very affordable. We do not like to take over something that you've been doing for a long time, but if it's just something that you feel like you really, really just need somebody to take it over, we have no problem in doing that as well. So, just like I said, our email address, I pop it up every now and then. I'll pop it up for you right now.
Yeah.
And well, that's for the don't do that one. I'll put the other one up.
And Karen, Pinckney and Maxwell, especially in places like John's Island, James Island, Edisto, Charleston itself. Yeah, those are two names that the folks I know very well. Actually, one of them is a descendant of the Pinckneys. So please, on Facebook, just send me an instant message, and I will keep an eye out for it. Yeah, Karen, and as Donya said, when we make it, doesn't happen often, but we're human. We make a mistake, we own up to it.
Yeah, I have no problem owning up to mine, trust me. But that one was funny because when I told Yolanda about it, the first thing she said was, "I love Loretta because that's all you could do." She's helpful sometimes. No, let me stop. That's my girl. I love her to death. I'm not even gonna lie to you. She means the world to me. She means the ultimate world to me, and she's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So, in the closing minutes of the show, Aubrey, when we opened the show, you were talking about you were in a place where you didn't know and you were curious. Now you have some answers. I think as genealogists, we will never have all the answers that we're looking for, but you have some answers now. So how does that feel?
It does feel great. I actually called my Uncle Michael the very next day, like I said, and I sent him the picture of who his grandmother would have been, and he goes, "Yep, that's her. That's the picture your grandfather had hanging in our house when we were kids." So that just made me feel better.
Yeah, actually, Donnie, when Manny and I were in the green room, he said the family resemblance was that strong.
Yes, of her and my aunt. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They look like twins.
There you go. So has this inspired any interest in maybe visiting Edgefield, seeing where you come from?
Oh yes. I'm definitely going to go. I don't know if I'm going to make it to a reunion or anything. I might just drive down there one day on my way to Atlanta and stay in Edgefield for a day or two and just ride around and see how things are. I doubt if there's any Jennings there, though.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're not a Jennings. You don't have, what I mean by that is you do not have Jennings DNA. That's what I mean. You have the Jennings surname, you just don't have their DNA. So it's like for me, my mom is a Yeldale, her dad is a Yeldale, her grandfather is a Yeldale, but it's a possibility that they don't have Yelldale DNA. They may be related to Yelldales as cousins, but I don't sometimes because okay, let's not use me. Never mind.
Well, I was going to say again
Because
something that Donya, Loretta, and all of us have seen, and Yolanda and Sharon have seen in our research, is when someone was, because again, formal adoptions didn't, your grandfather's era, they didn't really happen, specifically not for African Americans. So a lot of times you'll see the boys take the surname of the only father figure, the only male father figure that they had in their life, who was like, we could think of them as an adopted dad or foster dad, which actually speaks to the closest of the relationship that they had.
yeah, I mean it's like a person you can carry. No, I am going to use the Yelldales. I'm going to use the Yelldales. The white Yelldales in Edgefield, South Carolina, you could have taken on that last name. Anybody could take on that last name when an enslaved person. And they took it on because they seem to have been a very nice group of people. They trained their enslaved people to have good paying jobs so that when slavery ended, they could take care of themselves. They taught them how to read. They taught them how to write. So if you wanted to come across a good name of people, that would have been a name that you just took on. The Jennings might have been that kind of name, and that may have been a name that your family took on, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that was the bloodline that your family came from. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So it's not to say that Willie wasn't your grandfather's father. It just may have been the name that he took on. So your DNA is not necessarily Jennings DNA. It's something else. That's what has to be figured out.
Yeah, that's the next mystery to solve.
That's the next mystery. That's actually the next mystery to solve. And that's going to be a hard mystery to solve out of Edgefield, because the only thing that's actually popping up for you is Talbert. And it's going to be hard because people kept intermarrying with each other. And that's all I'm going to say.
And Aubrey, you don't know this. Most of our audience knows this. Those intermarriages, that's why Donya and I are related at least 7 or 8 different ways in Edgefield alone.
Yep.
We're going to be related more than that in North Carolina and Virginia, but Edgefield, we're related 7 to 8 ways.
Yeah.
Just because of intermarriages.
Yeah. Like you're related to Brian. We just don't know where it is yet. You're related to me through the Talberts. We just, it's all there. It's all there. So, but I thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story. I'm sorry, that I wasn't able to be on here with you guys at the beginning.
But hey, at least I now know that I need to push the live button to actually go live.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah. So
thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for hanging in there. We got online eventually. Manny, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your thoughts and your stories. We now have you on the right track, and we have you on the right road, and I look forward to hearing more about the discoveries that are made there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, no matter how you've tuned in, and we will see you next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in all of our usual places.
Yes. Brian, don't hang up because you're going to shut it down.
Okay, I won't.
So, okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here. And Loretta, you are related, so be quiet before I unfriend you. See, y'all see how we do. Anyway, I'm Donya.
I'm Brian. See you next week.
Yes. Bye, guys. Ooh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. See you guys.